Let's retopologize this guy now. Now, we're not going to do a full head because this would take ages and it's actually a full tutorial series by itself. But I'm going to use this time just to explain some core concepts of retopo. First thing we do is we set this to be make live. Just use it as a live surface. Then we use Quadro. And the key concept of retopology is that you really want to keep it simple. You want to just keep the big loops very simple from an early point. So we're going to start blocking in some loops. Now this is a chapter I recommend that you actually follow along with. It's a very practical chapter. So once we have one quad, we can use the shift key or tab key to extrude it out. And what I'm thinking about now is really just trying to block out a loop going around the eye like this, just so it's very clean and simple. I want to use as few points as humanly possible while still preserving kind of the shape. Hit the shift key to get this shape in between. Now we're going to do the same thing here for the mouth, just really getting the quick loops around. You know, again, just click to get the dots and shift key to drag it out. And then use left mouse button, drag around here. It is really trying to match it up with the actual shapes we have here. Just trying to work with the anatomy we have. And then keep in the center line like this. Can be a bit tricky sometimes to actually be able to select the points here, just because it's not a good representation. You can see what's actually going on. It's not in any way representing the shape right now, but that's fine. We'll add more loops to this later on. So that if you have issues selecting it, that's just because you're not actually making good shapes right now. So again, just trying to get nice loops going around here. I'll try to make a loop going down here, like so that it follows along. Now, if you're unsure what I'm actually doing now, what hotkeys I'm using, just refer to the last chapter. We already covered it there. So I don't really have to cover it again right now. I'll just do some quick reminders once in a while when I use a new tool. For instance, here, I was using the hold down tab key and just extrude from the corner out like so. And then we'll use the tab key again to just extrude it out. And now what I'm thinking about is trying to keep it the same amount of loops here as here. So I'm trying to think, how can I match this up later on? This is gonna serve you so well, because now it's gonna be a million times easier to actually resolve the topology, because you're essentially doing a puzzle. Let's add a new loop here as well, just we need a bit more resolution. And then we can add this loop going all the way over here. I'm still trying to think about how we can resolve this. And then we'll add a loop going around here as well, around an nasolabial fold. This is just a fold, like the big smile wrinkle here. So tab to just extrude this out. And then just follow this line down here. Again, you can see trying to match it up. If you plan your topology properly, it's really like piece of cake. It's really easy to actually refine it later on then and connect everything up. The cleaner you are at this stage, the easier everything is. And then we can make this go all the way up. So let's just select one point here or cut it in the center. Like this, just hold on control, and now we can add a loop. Then we can make this guy go up here. We can go all the way up, and then we can just connect it up like so. And then we can tab and drag on the center point like this. We can add another loop, and then we can just merge these two together. I love that you can merge it together by just making sure they're close. Then we can also add a loop here, and then we can start to block in the nose as well. I mean, keep this super simple. We really want to keep this simple at this stage. Just block it in a bit more. Shift key to fill this in here, and then we can do the same thing here. It looks a bit broken, but that's just because we have very low topology right now. And then we can start to fill in some more things here as well. You really want to keep this to the center line. An easy way of doing that is if we go into object mode, then hit Control 1 to go into isolation mode, spacebar, hit the Maya key in front view, and then we can select all these verts here, which are in the front, just the center line here. And then we have a little feature up here, which is where we can set an actual value for the points. So if we click on X, we can set this to be 0. So now these are perfectly zeroed in like so. Hit spacebar, Maya, perspective view, Control 1 to go out of the isolation mode, and then we can start to retopologize again, because now we know for a fact that these guys here are perfectly centered. Then we can start to fill some of these guys in like this. You could also just, paint it down, but I prefer to be a bit more precise with this. Like I really just want to take my time with this and do it slowly. Like this is really a case where slow is fast. The slower and more methodically you can do this, the easier everything is going to become later on. And it just takes some time to get used to seeing these kind of patterns. If you can't do this right away, don't worry about it. You can just follow along with the video and just pause it whenever you need to. Just take the time it takes. And then we need to add a loop in the center as well, because now it's going a bit crazy, and we just have to make sure the shape actually follows it a bit nicer. Actually, I think I have to move this up a little bit because it's far too deviant from what I need. And we can just extrude it down like so. And then we can actually extrude it down so it connects up. There we go. Sometimes you just have to force it. You just have to force it down so it kind of merges together by itself. And this guy doesn't want to play ball at all. So what we can do then, we can just force it in. We can go to object mode. We can do this, and then we can just straight up just merge these to center. Just if it doesn't want to play ball, then we'll just force it to play ball with us. Add a loop here as well, and then we can shift click here and shift click here as well. See if we can actually make this here go in, and there we go. So you have to add a resolution at some point. Like there's no reason just to keep it low poly just to keep it low poly. Like you have to still adhere to the shape at some point. Otherwise there is no purpose of doing retopology. Can add another loop here as well, and a loop here, and then I want this guy here to go over here. So then we have a loop going around here. And let's start to connect this up. So you don't really have to stick to the Quadro tool. Like that is just one of the tools we have at our disposal. Whatever works for you, just feel free to use that. Control click here to just put one in the center, just so we have more resolution. Same thing here as well. And down like this as well. And then I want to go into object mode, because this guy here seems there's something wrong with him. So in this case, what's happened is that the normal has been reversed. So in this case, we can use a tool we haven't used before, which is under mesh display, and we can do reverse. What this is doing is actually just reversing the normal. And there we go. So keep in mind, retopology is not just Quadro. Use whatever tool at your disposal. Now I'm going to make the eye in a second. I just want to have some more loops going around here first and just distribute them a little bit nicer first. Okay, and then what we can do, we can go into object mode again, just so we're not using the quadro tool. What we can do now, we can go edge mode, double click the edge, and we can extrude this down. Remember, if we can extrude this with the actual scale tool, so let's just hold on the shift key, and now we can just extrude it down like so. Because now it's, since we're using make live or the live feature here, now it's just going to follow the shape. And then we can go back in and start to shape it up with the quadro tool. So like I said, use any tool at your disposal. Make live is not, or the live feature is not a quadro feature. It's a Maya feature, so any points will snap to it. So I've seen people trying to use quadro for like everything, but that's really unnecessary. Just use whatever you can. Do the same thing here. Hold on shift key and just extrude it in like so. And then we'll go in here and we'll make sure this is at the lid. Now the model here I would originally have liked to be a bit more high res. This is a ridiculously low model, but for our purposes now it works fine. Normally I'd probably have this 3 or 4 times as high, because it is actually a bit tricky to see where all the shapes are, but it's still good enough. It still does the trick. Okay, cool. So now we have most of that. And we really aren't going to go too much further than this area here. The moment we start to include the ear and stuff like that, it becomes a bit problematic. Like it just takes a lot more time to do it. Then let's do the same trick as before. Let's go to the front view. And then let's make sure that everything here is nice and centered. And then one thing we can do now is, this is a little hacky, but what we can do is, instead of adding, we need more resolution to this. Instead of just straight up just adding more resolution everywhere and refining it, what we can do is we can select the entire thing. Then we can use a smooth operator. We can just select the object here, shift right mouse button and smooth. And there we go. Now we have one division here, which just makes everything nicer. This is a really nice way of doing it, because now we have the loops blocked in, and now we just get more resolution right away. Now what this does is it increases the poly count by 4. So instead of this here used to be 1 polygon, now it's 4 polygons. And then what we can do, we can go in now with the quadro, and we can start to just hold on the shift key and we can just smooth it out like so. We can just work over it, so it's just going to conform perfectly to our model. Got to be a little bit careful with this, just so we don't, like we want to be a bit local. Like this area here is a bit rough still, so you just want to make sure that we don't go too crazy. But this is generally a pretty good way of doing it, because now you can see that we have a pretty nice model with some decent density, and it's yeah, it's just pretty nice to work with here. Now, obviously, this loop here in the center went a bit crazy, so we can delete this loop just to make sure we are working a bit cleaner, and then we can just work here with the move tool perhaps, and just refine these shapes a little bit more, like so. And then we can, let's just refine this a bit more as well. You can see it's snapping to something. So we're forcing it a little bit, forcing his hand a little bit now. So we just need more resolution through here as well. Let's fix this guy as well. Then we can add another loop going through here. And it's snapping to the wrong point, which is a bit annoying. Let's make sure it's snapped at the right point here. What we can also do in this case, we can use the Edit Edge Flow tool. So this will just make everything a bit nicer. So shift right mouse button, Edit Edge Flow tool. And now you can see it just kind of pops into place. So this is generally a pretty good way of doing it. So now we have a model with general pretty good topology. There are definitely some issues in places, like this area here is a bit crappy, just because we haven't refined it properly yet, and we won't really take this too far because this is more like a bonus chapter. But it means now that we are pretty much ready to mirror this guy. Just make sure again that everything is nice and centered. Like so. Select all the verts, go up here and set absolute transform. And then we can shift right mouse button, and this is a tool we also haven't used before. Shift right mouse button, and here is mirror. A mirror does exactly that. Mirror will mirror the entire model. And now we have a model which is perfectly symmetrical and looks pretty good. This one here is going to work fine for a starting base. You know, obviously you would spend more than a few minutes on it, but it's going to work. It's going to work fine. Then we can also go into object mode, shift right mouse button, soften, harden, and soften, harden. And if you have issues like this as well, sometimes what you have to do is you have to go up to mesh display and unlock normals. Sometimes they just go a bit crazy, so we have to go up here and just hit unlock normals, and then we can try it again and just do soften, harden, or we can just do straight up soften edges as well. So yeah, that's how I would retopologize something like this head. Of course, you can keep refining it, but this is a generally pretty good way of doing it. And this is how I've been doing it for full-on production assets as well. Work with a low-res base, start to refine the models, and start to refine the loops, subdivide the entire thing, which will, you know, just increase the polygon by 4, but it keeps it very nice and very easy. Remember to delete your history, because we probably have, actually we don't have, it's not that bad right now. But then Shift Alt D and just delete the history.